Participation and representation amongst racially ethnically marginalised students, REM, is notoriously low in university sports. With them facing additional barriers to participation and belonging, this is a conversation that needs to be had. Our campuses are becoming more diverse. We need to recognise, celebrate, and be more in touch with our members. We need to continue the momentum and allow our students the space to talk about race. This current campaign has been inspired by Sport England's Tell Your Story campaign, so we want to encourage our students to share their own stories. This isn't a Canterbury issue. This is a national issue. It's about the love of the game. Let's show racism the red card. Happy Varsity.
Jim.
Ayo.
Shemi.
Rani.
Dylan.
Anna.
Cal.
Melody O'Casey.
I first became involved in cheer in my final year as an undergraduate student.
So basically, I first came from Nigeria when I was in primary school, then I came to a school called Wyndham College, a boarding school in year 7, and obviously there's rugby, cricket and football, and in the first term we played rugby, so obviously I got stuck in and ended up playing rugby and ended up liking it.
I first started playing football when I was in year 2. My parents were massive football fans, and of course they just had to get me into it, so that's when I started playing.
It definitely have to be, say, around 3 or 4, playing in the garden with Dad, little cricket bat, tennis ball. I think it's just how I grew up, you know, a very sporty family, and kind of just picked it up from whenever I could really walk, to be honest. So sport's definitely been sort of bread and butter for me, always part of my life from the get-go. Yeah.
I first became involved in Kentshire after I went to the Freshers' Fair. I was kind of convinced of joining dance or football, but then I kind of changed because I'd always wanted to do cheer growing up.
I'd say probably during around 2007 to 2010. It was when, you know, Kobe Bryant was rising up and he was all over everywhere. And yeah, I'd say he's one of the people that inspired me to play basketball. And he's one of them, and then you also have my brothers. So I have 3 brothers, me being the youngest, and we're all competitive at anything, and that also includes basketball.
And so I've always been in love with netball. I played it ever since I was in like year 3 in primary school, but I never really got super serious about it until when I took PE GCSE, and then I took it as one of my sports. And then that's when I started to get really like serious about it, training properly.
For me, rugby started when I was in probably primary school, literally at the end of primary school. People's parents saw me kind of play rugby within my primary school and were like, come join the club, this, that, and other, and then joined the club. Felt very welcomed at the club as well. And then I kind of progressed through there, and then obviously I go on to my year 7 school and then my boarding school where I met Shemi. And then, yeah, now on to uni and playing rugby. So it's been a thing for a while now. Yeah.
Been consistent throughout your life?
Yeah, okay, yeah, you could say that, yeah, definitely.
So when I was younger, I wanted to do gymnastics, which is something I did do. There wasn't many people that looked like me in the club that I was in, and I could always feel that I was a bit different to everyone else. So when I was younger, I always wanted to try different things. I tried football, I tried netball, really liked gymnastics, really liked ballet, but something I always wanted to do was cheer. And so in the area that I grew up in, there was one club that I really wanted to go for and wanted to do. And so my mum called them up, I was really excited, but they never really wanted me to join, which is something I felt kind of impacted my experience and kind of put me off of joining other things or other clubs.
Honestly, when I first started playing football, it never crossed my mind that, you know, I was maybe an outsider to some of the girls that I played with. It wasn't until I moved to a British international school in Jakarta that I then started to feel different, if that makes sense. Yeah, I went to join the football team. A lot of the girls were white, British, American, and I don't know, it just I felt like there were eyes on me, like I wasn't supposed to be there, and I could tell that they felt the same way. But fortunately, my mum was like super supportive and everything, and I just pushed through. You know, I wanted to play football because it's football, not for any other reason.
So I'd say from young years, like primary school, I had a good experience with rugby, especially with the encouragement to get involved from other parents from very different ethnic backgrounds in comparison to my own. Going into them, probably my year 7 school, I'd say there was no representation of me at all. There was about, between the years of year 7 to year 13, there were about, I don't know, 3 black people in the whole school, including myself. So to them be feeling represented while playing rugby is not really possible in that sense. Still played the sports, but didn't feel represented, but I kind of didn't let that kind of stop me from playing the sport. If I was interested in it and I developed a passion for it, I want to play it, so I'll play it regardless. Going into my later years, secondary school, where I met Shemi at Wyndham College, that was definitely a place where I felt completely comfortable to go and play rugby and go and try it and be integrated in it, etc., etc., etc.
Because where I grew up, it was predominantly people from sort of South Asia and France and sort of south of Africa. And I think having such an overload of a variety of cultures and stuff, and then moving here, where it's a bit more one way, not say it's necessarily good or bad, it was just a bit of a shift in sort of the environment I was in. But no, I don't think it affected me personally on sort of embracing it all in, to be honest. It was just a different dynamic and sort of very happy to take it on, to be honest.
I'd say when I moved here for the first time in England, around 2015, and I met this coach in my school, and he's definitely helped me from at the start to where I am now. You know, at the time I've never played organized basketball, so I don't know anything about that. But yeah, it definitely did take me quite a while to get used to it. Well, once I did, and that kind of just took off, you know. And that's also the help with my coach, how he's guided me. He's guided me so much to get to where I am now. Not just basketball skills, anything, life advice. He's brought me to a lot of places I would never thought I'd go. So.
So I never really noticed it when I was younger. So through school, everything was fine. It has changed a little since I come to university, in the sense that I'm Muslim. So I'm very modest in terms of the way that I dress. So when I play, I'll wear like a base layer and leggings, and even through training, like I'll dress quite modestly. And that's something that growing up wasn't really an issue. Like it's just something that I never really noticed about myself. In the league that I played locally, we played outside, so everyone was wearing base layers anyway. But obviously here we play indoors, and I'm the only one who dresses in that certain way. So I think it does make me stand out. It's not an issue. Like I don't feel like I'm completely different or I'm not as good enough as like the other girls here. But when I go to other universities and I look around and no one looks like me, no one's wearing a base layer, no one's playing at like the same standard of sport that I am, which is quite sad. But it's just something that like I've noticed, not something that's really like affected my experience.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was difficult. Again, I always felt, because I looked different to all of them, that like I had something to prove, to show that I'm worth being on the team with them. And that did follow me when I then moved for my 6th form. When I came to university, it was a lot more prominent. I think it was only me and one other girl who were Southeast Asian. She was Southeast Asian, I'm half Southeast Asian. But despite the fact I am half British, I still feel like they don't see me that way. Like my identity is determined by them. Like, I don't know, I think for a lot of biracial kids, it's the fact that for the white kids, I'm brown to them. And to the brown kids, I'm white to them. I'm never enough for whoever it is I'm talking to. It's just, I don't know, something that, again, I have to live with. I have to control when I'm playing football. When you hear like the comments, and you don't know if a tackle is targeted at you for another reason besides, I don't know, me being a good player. And I still feel that to this day, like when I play matches against other unis. But I don't know, it's just something I have to play with, something I have to deal with. And it's, I don't know, it's fueled my determination to become a better player, a better person. But again, it's just something that's always going to be there in the background, really.
I feel like at university, things haven't really changed. Even on my course, I'm still a minority, which kind of deters me sometimes from actually signing up for things like sports or events. But I've learned to get used to it and just manage it and go on with life day to day.
Going into uni, I think those past experiences then continue to allow me to play rugby now, because I've had those positive experiences, and every time I kind of think about the sport or even think about giving up on the sport or anything like that, it's a reminder of those positive experiences is why I keep playing, and those type of people that you get to meet throughout the sport is why I keep playing, etc. The friendships that you make is why I keep playing.
Sometimes been hard, just because like when you don't have anyone to look up to or you don't have anyone who understands you, it's definitely tricky. And then there's a lot of things terms like socially in netball where like drinking's a super big aspect, and I think religion and netball don't necessarily line up, and it's like really hard to mix the two. I know my parents are a bit apprehensive about it as well, but they've always encouraged me to like keep going, but like keep following my religion as I go through it, and I think that's what I've done. And I wouldn't say that I've been disadvantaged or anything. I think it's just been a different experience, and it's just made my journey a bit more different to everyone else's.
Yeah, it definitely rocked my confidence. Again, I always felt like I had to prove something, that like I had to do something so that they would accept me for who I am, how I look, how I sound. Yeah, I don't know, although the girls' team, like they were so like welcoming and really like warm towards me. Again, it's just, that's like, there's a little bit of exclusivity, if that makes, sorry, is that the right word?
Exclusion.
Exclusion, that's what it, yeah, exclusion. Yeah, and again, like it's just unfortunate that because of all the football I've seen in Asia, that's just not represented, or it wasn't represented when I first came here. So it was tough to deal with, but again, I just pushed through with it. For the love of the sport. I try to push out. I really just try to like focus on the fact that I'm there to play football. Nothing else should matter. Nothing else should get to me. Like I'm there to perform in the sport that I love, and anything else shouldn't like be a factor in contributing to my performance, really.
Never really thought about it that way, but no, not really. I don't think it's really affecting my confidence too much. You know, I just really go out there and play, go home.
I think for my confidence at university, I think it boosted my confidence to be able to be part of a sport, to be able to be part of cheer, because when you're performing, you're being you, you're being sassy, you're being yourself, and so it boosted my confidence to be able to perform and do something that I've always wanted to do. So yeah.
For me, I think just from sport alone and being confident in playing whatever sports I was beforehand, I think that just helped me sort of come in here with a better mindset and sort of take whatever challenges came on and sort of embrace meeting new people, to be honest, knowing that we all have the same, you know, common theme of wanting to enjoy the sports, yeah.
So essentially it wasn't the people around you that made you feel a type of way, it was just about your love for the sport?
Yeah, I think love for the sport, and I think being in this university here, I think the way that they promote sport and inclusivity sort of just made me feel really comfortable coming in here. And I think they focus so much on the sport and less of all the fluff around it. It just made it so much easier to move in here.
Basketball is definitely diverse. It doesn't matter what country you go to, whether that's, or what continent, whether that's in Asia or Southeast Asia, Africa, basketball is definitely everywhere. Even when I used to go to parks, when I was younger, I used to go to Finsbury Park quite a lot. It's diverse from any race, and it can get competitive too. Here, we're probably still one of the most diverse teams, if anything.
So I'll say rugby, I'll say it's like 60-40, like around that time, because a lot of like black people, we like playing football. We're more into our football than our rugby. So you don't really see much people from young trying to play rugby unless their parents or like their grandparents have previously played it before. So more black people are into football than playing rugby. So I think that's where the 60-40 comes from, you know. Yeah. Okay, so obviously when I was younger, in my secondary school, there was, my sixth form, a lot of black students. We did mix around. Like coming into university, like it kind of changed. Like there's now 3 black people when I'm used to like 6 or 7. So like 3 black people, and one of them, Kel, his name's Kel. I went to secondary school with him anyways. So like I've been playing with him for years. So it kind of makes it like better that there's me and him. But like I would say it could be more people around.
I think there's less at university than in previous places, but because of those previous places, it doesn't bother me so much about the uni's representation, because I've already been in environments to make me feel confident enough to carry on pursuing the sport. So yeah, 100%. I would say rugby as a whole, in just general, is, I think, a pretty dynamic sport, as in the type of people involved in it. Do I think there could be more minority people involved in my sport? 100%. But I think from where it's gone and how far it's come in terms of including people and inclusion, yeah, it's come a long way. So I think, for me, I'm happy with how much diversity is within the sport as a whole. Yeah, more than happy.
Looking at cheer, I think this year there has been a boost in the levels of diversity. I wouldn't say that it's as diverse as I would have liked it to have been. I think on our main team, like on our largest team, Diamonds, there's different people of different ethnicities, and I feel like that's more of the team that people of colour usually go for. Whereas like looking at our competition teams, there doesn't seem to be any representation as such.
We're not really diverse. I feel like the main reason is it's quite hard for minorities to kind of like put themselves out there and sign up for these sports where they know they're going to be a minority. Like even me, sometimes I look around our training and see how less of us there kind of are. It's kind of like intimidating, and we usually try and stick together.
I think that REM level is okay at the moment, but it's definitely not great. I think in terms of people who reflect me and people that I can look up to, I can't even name one. Like I can't name one Pakistani Muslim woman in netball who plays, like not even in the Super League or like World Cup. Like I can't name a single one, which I think is really, really bad. And it just means that girls like me don't have anyone to look up to who kind of like completely relates to us in terms of like dressing modestly, like while playing.
women's football is not diverse at all, unfortunately. To be honest, actually, I'm like, although my football team, well, this year it's very diverse, which I'm so proud. Like, if you look at our team now compared to what my team looked like in my first year, like, it's so like rich in culture and ethnicity now, and that actually was one of the like the main reason I came to this uni. I looked at the international rates because I wanted to be in a place where I knew I would feel comfortable, find people I could relate to. But yeah, looking at the diversity of women's football, I don't know, it's hard because like we said, like, it's very white dominated, and so when I was growing up, or even still to this day, like, there's no one I can look up to that looks like me. Even though, like, I look at the Lionesses, I am half of what they are, but I know that in the back of my head, I will never be at the same level as them. Like, my sister and I, we always used to make this joke. It's kind of dark, but we made this joke that if we ever were to make the English national team, we would have to change our last name from Marfuad to something more English sounding, because the idea of just having an English national team and then seeing my last name on the back of someone's shirt, just it's not something you're ever going to see, which is unfortunate, because it is part of me, half of me is this country, this place. Yeah, I don't feel like I belong in it, and the representation of, you know, ethnic women in football is so low that it makes it difficult to, you know, have those dreams and aspirations, unfortunately.
People also go where they see themselves represented, which is also another deciding factor on whether or not to join that sport.
And I think that's partly due to financing. I think it's also partly due to the fact that a lot of people of colour feel as though comp teams aren't something that they would be able to get into. And so something I'd hoped as president was to kind of eradicate the stereotype of that people of colour can't do cheer, and which I've hoped to have done, but I think there's always room for improvement.
I think it's a yes or no question, especially for cricket. I think no, and sort of the lack of diversity would come from the finances, getting equipment, starting off, and that's sort of just a world-round thing. But I think the overlaying, how do I say it, factor is that it's so common in South of Asia, here in the UK, Australia, South Africa. I think the diversity across the world for the sport and the love for the game, I think just brings everyone in together. And I think once you get past the sort of financial barrier, then I think it's probably one of the most inclusive sports you can get. And also that's sort of partly why I love it, is that you get a bit of everything in it now.
So your sport is quite diverse?
As diverse as it can be. Again, I think in the sense with cricket, it's also a very particular sport. Can't compare it to, say, football or, say, basketball. And I think it's, in my opinion, less of a diversity thing and just more of a preference of the sport. So even that there are, say, a lack of numbers excluding, say, white males, I don't think there's any prejudice towards anything.
And I think the biggest reason for that, why it's so diverse now, is by far the 92 Olympic team, USA, with Michael Jordan and his era, the way they transcended basketball. Yeah, so they pretty much kind of sold Americanas all over the world, you know. And I guess, you know, everyone knows Michael Jordan, you know, arguably the greatest of all time, and you have him. And I'm pretty sure at the time the NBA was at 82 countries, and now NBA is pretty much all over the world, around like 216 countries. So I'd say it's that era that transcended everything.
I think the main reason is schooling. I'll be honest with you, because I'm looking back at things like such as there's a competition such as NatWest Cup. For that is mainly a private school's competition. Right, I went to a college during my sixth form and we were in that NatWest Cup. We got to maybe just before the quarterfinals and had beat all these private schools, and then I guess they didn't get too happy about it, reported us, and we got kicked out the cup. But it's that kind of thing of it being only for private schools, like a competition like that. Why is it just for private schools, and why is it just, and because you know, with these private schools, predominantly they are white private schools, so you don't see much representation of black people in a competition such as NatWest Cup. You'll get the few that are there, you know, but you won't see it half as much as something like football, in a sense. It doesn't compare.
Like I said before, I don't think religion and netball kind of mix very well. I think there's certain things that the sport allows for that religion maybe doesn't, and then there's some that the religion allows for that the sport maybe doesn't. So I think it just clashes in the way that I'm brought up and in the way that the sport is played.
And I think it does have to do with the fact that, again, it's so popular in westernized countries. I grew up in a place where students are very much focused on being the best at anything, just themselves, not as a team. So it's more like focused on badminton or swimming or tennis, you know, very much individual sports.
Like I've started a Punjabi society, and I'm the sports sec, so we're going to start a netball team, and I've spoken to a lot of girls trying to recruit, and for them it's just not anything that they were really encouraged to do in school. Like my mum really encouraged me to play. She used to play when she was younger, but I'm guessing a lot of especially Asian parents, Asian mums, don't necessarily always play sport growing up, or they're not necessarily allowed to. So I think that passes down onto their children. I think that's, having spoken to a lot of girls in my year at uni nowadays, that's why they haven't. And then a lot of Muslims as well, they say it's just balancing the whole dressing wise and just not feeling welcome enough, not seeing enough representation to be able to do it. But I've had girls come up to me in my games and be like, oh, like I think it's amazing like how you feel comfortable enough to dress in that way when everyone else is dressing in a different way. And that really, really helps for me to carry on, because it does get really hard sometimes when like you do stand out, and I'm not sure if that's in a good way. I have quite a few times.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yes, I have, but ultimately I decided not to. Initially, in the beginning, I felt like dropping out of cheer only due to the cost that I would incur with the membership fees, the uniform fees. All of those added up together was really costly, but luckily Kent Union had an access to an activities fund, which I signed up for, and that helped ease the burden off me.
I think there have been many times that I've thought about dropping out of my sport, partly because I think it's difficult to fit in sometimes. I think sometimes you're in an environment where there's a lot of people who don't really understand your personality or understand how you are as a person, and so characters and characteristics can get in the way of that, and you might feel as though you don't feel seen or heard by the people around you. And so part of that has always weighed heavily on me, and that it happened quite a lot in my second year. Whereas I feel like at the end of second year I found the confidence in myself, and that's why I did go for president, because I feel as though I thought other people might be experiencing the same thing as me and experiencing that they don't fit in to the society that they're in. And so I wanted to be able to create a space for everyone that they do feel as though they do belong in cheer.
But I think it's from a lot of things. It's from like having a bad game day and then not feeling like you're good enough, especially when you have such a good team that you're playing with. When like you're looking different, like you look back at the pictures and like it's very clear that you're like the odd one out in a way. So sometimes I think to myself, oh, is it worth it? Like, is what I'm doing, like, should I just stop? But like at the end of the day, I wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't something that I really love to do, and something that I think I could pursue So like you do get those occasional thoughts, but as long as you remind yourself why you're playing, what are your reasons, who do you want to make proud, it gets a lot easier as time goes on.
I say I had one experience, like probably a while back, like yeah, 6, 7 kind of times I can remember. It was just the experience of a coach, and it was like we had played a game in the mud, etc., and he's like, oh, you don't need to shout because you're always dirty, kind of thing like that. And I, you know, at the time I understood it was a joke, but it wasn't even me that picked up on it. It was another parent who then went and proceeded with that and actually made the comment about it and asked me how I was feeling about it. And then once he actually started to dive and asked me how I was feeling about it, I actually realised that it did affect now how I'm thinking about the sport and then wanting to play it. And because, you know, that's a coach that's saying that. That's one of the main people who are within your sport to teach you to play and teach you to become better. So if you don't feel a sense of connection with them or feel a bit of distance or oddness with them, then you're not going to be inclined to carry on playing your sport. So that definitely made me question whether I kind of want to continue the sport. Besides that, it's just a rigorous routine of when I was in college, waking up like 5 a.m. to get in for 7 to do gym, then go on the pitch for 2.5 hours, then go into class for like the rest of the day up till like 4 or 5. That kind of student-athlete routine definitely made me question what I was doing, but man, I saw it through and then I'm still playing rugby now, so.
But yeah, it's something I love too much that I would like leave forever. I have to, like my life is football, I need to be playing football to be happy, so.
Yeah, of course, like I have, but I won't say it has to do with anything with race. It's just generally sometimes just like, can I be asked now? Or like I'm in uni now, let me try it. But I think it's a good balance to play sport and do your uni work because you need that relief of stress, you know, you need something to put your mind to sometimes rather than your education.
No, definitely not. I think sport being, no matter what happens around me, it's my go-to release space. For me, it's half the reason I'm, you know, sleep and breathe. It's part of my life. And I wouldn't change that for the world, to be honest. Whether, you know, you're feeling good, feeling bad, I think it's the main denominator through my life that'll never change, to be honest, yeah.
I think by, even with us, trying to make fees and memberships more accessible to people, pushing for things like the development fund, getting that out there so that people can encourage more people to go and join sports, as well as the team selection processes being more unbiased, and instead of focusing on picking people that you are more liked than, picking people that because of their skill set and not having that bias against people because they might not look like you or they might not share similar interests as you. And I feel like that's a process that should be looked into more specifically into teams. There are so many talented people and I don't feel as though sometimes like sport is reflective of that, like team-wise. I don't feel as though people of colour are reflected in teams.
I feel like individuals could create like an open and healthy space where people can come talk about their problems. I feel like it's really important to have a place where you could voice your opinions without being penalised for it.
Just open up the conversation. Like you need to create a space and an environment where people feel safe to say how they feel and express what it is they're going through or what it is that is putting them down or anything. And I felt like my team has done a great job at doing that this year, you know, opening up to, well, letting everyone know that we're open to anything and everything, whoever you are, whatever you are, like we're gonna be there, we're a team.
For me, when I came to uni, the committee was amazing to me. They're the ones who got me involved at socials, told me to keep coming. So they're the reason why like I felt welcomed, because like they spoke to me like individually, they saw me play. So that's how I developed my relationship with them. But for someone else, I think there's no one on committee that, I know there's welfare, but that doesn't really appeal to what I need. What I need is someone, like maybe a diversity officer or something like that, someone who I can go to for my needs for how I feel, because it's not necessarily, I don't have any welfare issues, but I do have like a sense of not belonging, and I think a diversity or like inclusion officer or something like that, they'd be the person that I could come to, and they'd be the person that newcomers, like new REM people could come to and talk to them. And yeah, I think that would be maybe one step the society should take. Because I think I grew up with it, which is why I was okay coming into it, and I wanted to come into it. But if you haven't grown up with the sport, then seeing it as a society at uni right now, especially for people like me, it doesn't look appealing. The fact that you have like morning trainings, everyone looks the same. You have Wednesday socials where everyone just goes to drink and then goes to Wednesday. Like, it doesn't appeal to people like me. So I came into it because I wanted to play the sport. But if I didn't have that, I don't know if I would come into it either.
I think that people can just push a bit harder to get, so even myself, like someone from an ethnic minority culture, whatever, I could push for more people of my kind to come and play my sport the same way that anyone can, kind of thing. Like you can, she can, he can push people to come and play the sport. At the end of the day, there is no more that I can say besides you have to kind of push it at people. You can let them choose, but you have to push it there and at least give them an opportunity and resources to at least attempt the sport. Because I think a lot of the reason why people don't get involved in sport is because they don't have the opportunity to initially be there in the first place, or there isn't that opportunity, like she was saying, like her school not being able to afford rugby posts. And other schools being able to. Obviously those students are going to be more inclined to get into rugby than the people who don't have a rugby post. So it's giving people the support and the necessary funding, in a sense, to make sure that everyone has equal opportunity to touch on these sports, in a sense. Yeah.
I think it's mostly the promotion of the game from the beginning, and I think allowing people to feel that it's a place of comfort, and that, going back again for what I've been repeating as well, is that the reason we do sport is for the love of the game, for the outlet, for the connections. And I think making that the priority, and that making sport the middle ground for a lot of people who do feel excluded and feel like there's lack of societies or representation of their ethnicity or cultural backgrounds. So if we just focus say, on creating opportunities and promoting inclusivity, I think it'll just make it a bit more approachable for those people who are a bit more tentative to move into that space.
If they could see like people from their own race playing the sport, which could actually welcome them into playing the sport. So I think just putting the sport out there could help.
Well, we're all there for the sport at the end of the day. So it shouldn't matter, like anything else shouldn't matter. You know, just letting people know that you're there for them and that they're seen. I think it's the most important thing, really.
You know what? I'll give you one word. It's a good one right now. That's definitely family.
Insightful.
Diverse.
Emotional.
Crazy.
It's been good. Oh, good.
Somewhat phenomenal. Like, it's been a good experience.
It's funny, okay, so I would say if you ask me just on my sporting experience, I would say it's the best sporting experience I've ever had. And then when you ask me in relation to race and ethnicity, I would say it's probably been the most challenging time.
Thank you for watching part 1. However, this isn't the end of the conversation. It's only just beginning. Stay tuned for part 2.